Hey, let's do it. Martin and Marlow, episode 23. Martin Kilcoyne, Charlie Marlow. This is a magical number, Charlie. The number 23, I think of Tom Nieto from the 80s with the St. Louis Cardinals. Not really any other 23s of note in the sports world that I can think of.
Yeah, good call. I can't think of any off the top of my head. None. Was LeBron James at first, was he 23 in homage to MJ? Is that how he started his career?
Yes, which probably didn't help matters because, as we know, ESPN right now probably has 8 shows on, and they're all debating whether LeBron's greater than Michael. That 23 that LeBron wore, and he also did the chalk. Remember the beginning where he would like do his hands during introductions and kind of make the powder go everywhere? That was an MJ thing. You know what I'm talking about?
Of course. As an Ohio native, remember, dude, we love LeBron James. If you're from Ohio, he's like our native son. Everybody loves LeBron James in Ohio. And I will say, I think LeBron did the chalk thing differently. Like Michael Jordan did the chalk. He liked to joke around with the broadcasters and kind of get a little bit on them. But LeBron made it this whole thing where he did it almost kind of like WWE, where he threw it way up in the air and smacked his hands. And it became this whole pregame ritual that like everybody in the fans, all the fans in the stands would do as well. So I do think he did it a little differently, to be fair.
Michael Jordan, number 20, the greatest 23 ever, we'll say, was Michael Jordan. Charlie, there's a lot to get to, which I think in the pre-show meeting that we had, you debated whether we had enough to talk about. Pal, I've got a whole list here, don't you worry. And it'll start with daily video, which it's like occasional. How about occasional video? And you did one on raking leaves. And I had a couple of questions for you after consuming the somewhat daily video. You said you'd been raking leaves and you did the backyard first. I think that's a mistake. I think you always do the front yard first because that's all people see. In the backyard, you get to it when you feel like it.
Interesting. Well, everything I do is for a reason. Now, in terms of cutting the grass, and while we're talking about this, I have to mention St. Louis Lawn Care because they do cut my grass front and back, and they oftentimes do the leaves, but I don't feel like I feel bad calling them every single week for leaves. So I try to usually have them come out once a month and just, once in November, once in December. If there's still some around in January, they just do the thing where they suck up all the leaves and the yard looks amazing. However, the reason I start with the back grass is because the back is easier. I have a hill in my backyard, and I can also blow the leaves right into this wooded area. Whereas in the front, there's a lot more going on. I have to collect the leaves. I have to put them in a garbage can. I have to take them back. So the backyard, I have help from the wind. I have help from gravity, and there's less surface area. So I knock that out first.
I think I've unearthed something. Are you blowing your leaves into Cousin John's pool? I think that's what's happening here.
Well, I don't think it gets to his pool, but I'm definitely blowing my leaves into that wooded area where I also throw my dog poop back there. So Cousin John, my arm is not that good. I bet you actually, if I tried, I could throw poop into his pool, but I would never do that.
Nice.
So I just throw it into the wooded area.
I think the other thing is this time of year, this is a veteran move too. You got to get the leaves up now because if you wait and it's like mid-December, first of all, it's cold. Or if you don't do any of it, the spring cleanup is just nasty because they're all soggy, wet. And then like a pile of leaves can weigh like 100 pounds. So these are tips for the kids. Most of them listening don't probably rake leaves, but just a couple of tips. Also the word Sisyphean, I believe. Is that the word you used?
Sisyphus. You never heard of Sisyphus?
No, I thought you're like Dennis freaking Miller. What Sisyphus? Could you spell it? But first explain it.
Okay. I'm surprised because you are a very worldly person. Sisyphus, this Greek tragedy, this Greek story, who knows if it's actually real? I'm sure it wasn't. But if you look it up, Sisyphus, basically, he did something wrong and his punishment was, you've heard this story before. Maybe you didn't know the guy's name. His punishment was to roll the big boulder up a hill. And so he constantly rolled this huge boulder up the hill, but right when he got to the top, he could never get it over the top, and it rolled all the way back down. So Sisyphus basically spent his entire life rolling a boulder up the hill constantly, and right when he could get it over the top of the mountain, it fell right back. And so it's one of those, what do you call it? allegories for basically just doing something that nothing will ever change. And like leaves, you do the leaves, you go out there, the next day you have to do them again. It's just like Sisyphus rolling up the ball. It's me every day blowing the leaves.
It's a great call. I've known that story, but I forgot the name. And this, every time something's quoted, especially like in the Bible, I went to Catholic grade school, high school, college, and my wife grew up Baptist, and she'll say, well, that was in, Mark, or that was in Ephesians. And I would be like, it was? She's like, did you learn anything? I have no, like, I can recall, Disco Dan Ford's number. I think it was 15 for the Orient, but I don't remember important stuff, which is disappointing.
Well, here's the thing, and you can't blame me because I'm not religious, so I'm not supposed to know any of these Bible verses. However, at Bradley, I did take the history of the Hebrew Bible. I remember being very interested in the class, but I don't remember anything from that. But I think you're kind of like a Trump religious person, right? Like Trump.
Would I hold the Bible awkwardly?
Hold on, let me explain this. Trump is obviously very religious, but he just can't quote one single Bible verse. So you guys are kind of similar.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Also, we got a lot to get to sports wise, but I had to do this to somebody the other day where they sent me a piece of weather video, and it was like some clouds going by, and they said, this would be perfect for your weather guy. By the way, hope you're well. And it didn't come up as anybody in my contacts. And I was like, it was, clearly wasn't like a telemarketer. It's somebody that knows me. So I had to play the old, I recently lost my phone and had to redo all my Does the other person believe that at all? Does it make them feel kind of small? I felt like an ass just saying, I'm sorry, remind me again who this is.
Yeah, that's not a good move. I mean, I shouldn't say it's not a good move.
What would you say in that situation?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's not your fault. You just have to do that because sometimes you forget to put the person's name in there. Sometimes they forget to put your name in there. Like that's happened to me where sometimes with people that I don't text very often, I will even say, hey, this is Charlie, just wondering if they maybe didn't save my contact. But that's one of those spots where I don't ever take it personally, but I think sometimes people do. Like if you texted somebody 10 times or 15, 20 times over the course of the year and they didn't save you, I'd be a little bit perturbed by that.
That's fair. Am I save worthy is the question the person's asking. It's Masters week. It's a little weird. It's mid-November, but the Masters taking place, handing out green jackets. Tiger trying to defend a title he won a year and a half ago. And I was thinking about Tiger, how it was 10 years ago. It was Thanksgiving. Wasn't the big incident in Florida with Elin chasing him with the golf club? It was right at Thanksgiving 10 years ago where the squeaky clean image, the well-crafted marketing image of Tiger Woods sort of started to crumble there. But he's had this road back, not just as a golfer, but I think he's become more likable. And other people have said this as well. Maybe he was humbled a bit. He's had some crap that he's had to deal with. There was driving while overly prescribed medication. I forget all that went on, but he kind of has had this, and maybe A-Rod is the only other comparison where people will just kind of revile the person, and some still don't like Tiger. But don't you think both of those have had remarkable turnarounds where people are now kind of back to rooting for him? That people that didn't, and some people probably were with Tiger throughout, but for people who checked out, it's like, he does seem, talking about his kids the other day. He was getting teary-eyed talking about his dad. I just think his story has shifted quite a bit where he was that cold, calculating kid. Then he got uber successful and maybe a little too high on the hog. And it's not a weird analogy, but then all of a sudden he comes back around. He's a good golfer and seems to be a loving dad. And A-Rod's the only one I could think of where there was sort of this period where they were reviled and now the people really do like him.
And I think it's fair to say for both of these guys too that, and I'm just trying to think, none of them broke the law, right? I mean, it was more of them being, I should say, bad husbands or, doing things, the transgressions with Tiger in terms of obviously all of his women and A-Rod had some of those issues as well. And also the fact that nobody liked A-Rod and he sued the Yankees and he was the guy that kind of got beat up by Jason Varitek. And remember when he was running around the bases and he kind of did that Bush League thing where he yelled when the pop-up was coming. So people just didn't like A-Rod. I think Tiger was so beloved coming up. He was such a phenomenon. I wasn't even into golf that much, but you couldn't not pay attention to just the Tiger effect on golf and all sports. And that's where I think with Tiger, he got humbled. And I think America loves to see these redemption stories. And you saw this guy who owned the world. And then you saw him get in a bad spot. And he had the issues with his marriage, obviously. And that was all out there in the public. And as you mentioned, when he gets pulled over, and then he was just not Tiger for 10 years. I mean, remember there were times where he withdrew from a tournament and he said it was because he was injured and people thought he basically quit. I mean, he basically hit the depths from the guy who was on top of the world we all thought was guaranteed to break Jack's record to just in a really bad spot. And then to come back, he's older. He does seem to have more fun. He talks about his kids. He seems to be more open with the media. He doesn't have his caddy, Stevie, yelling at everybody and trying to get people thrown out of the courses. That probably helps. So, yeah, I think America loves a redemption story, and it's fun to see Tiger back and competitive and obviously winning the Masters last year.
How about the Masters hosting College Game Day? The Masters is famous for following their own traditions and being real sticklers, which is fine. I think it's kind of who they've always been. And now they're lightening up a little bit. Maybe it's because it's 2020 and it's the pandemic, but they're going to have a little fun. College Game Day live from the Masters. I think it's great. It's fun. There was a time, and I need to look this up, but I think they said Chris Berman can't be part of the coverage when ESPN bought into it. They said they don't want Berman, which if I'm ESPN, I would tell them to stick it. You had to stand up for your guy, but they thought Berman was too cheesy to be at the Masters, which brings me to like our inner Berman that I think we all have, where we still say names. We're doing these reports on Fox 2. It's part of our Nexstar corporate group. And the guy doing these live reports every day is named Brad Means. And I want to just say, Natron means business. Every time this guy pops up and says Brad Means, my inner Berman is screaming Natron means business. Do you still do that with a lot of names when they pop up and you just hear Berman, or you kind of invent a Bermanism?
100%. So, and that's where I think sometimes we take for granted how much Chris Berman is just in our everyday culture in terms of how we talk. Like you and I have joked about this often. Every time I say Happy Halloween, Happy Thanksgiving, Merry Christmas, I always either say it or think about it in a Berman voice, because I swear it was his thing that he would always be the first person to wish you a holiday. He would always wish you the holiday like a month early. It made no sense, but it was his thing. Here's a good example too. We'll get back to raking leaves. As I've been raking leaves, I'm always listening to Pandora, and I'm usually listening to maybe CCR or whatever. And the other day I see Bad Moon Horizon play. And I mean, the first thing I think of is not anything to do with CCR. It's about Andre Bad Moon Horizon from Michigan State. So like even the little mundane things like that, you think of Boomer.
Mark Orange Lemon Jello. He does it on Monday nights now at halftime of Monday Night Football. They bring him back out, and he does. Whoop! And we got to get him on. I swear, I think because he's not as big a star as he used to be, maybe he would love just to kind of yuck it up. And he's all right. I'm writing this down, Chuck. I'm actually writing this down. Invite Berman to the podcast. I'm sure he'll say no, but I'm going to at least invite Berman.
Yeah, I'm going to have to disagree with you. I don't think he'd want to do the podcast. And I only say that because I just feel like he's probably done 10 million interviews. It seems like he enjoys now the lesser schedule where he probably, he's not working 5 days a week. He gets to do one fun thing for the NFL, and maybe he gets to do a baseball game. They always give him that. They always give him what? That second Monday night game, like the first one of the year. Like he just probably works when he wants to now.
Yeah, no, I wrote down to invite him, and then I also wrote he will say no. So we're good. Yeah. We're covered. Ever want to go to the Masters or go to Augusta? I would say on my sports bucket list, it's in the top 2 or 3. My answer on that is, when Cusimano will put you on the firing line. Okay, one event, sporting event, you can only go to one the rest of your life. I've always said Wimbledon just because I've never been to London, but also just to see it a lot of history, the spectacle of it. I would put that for me. And although the Masters is probably more reasonable because it's within the U.S., but I think I'd go Wimbledon, then Masters. What about bucket list sports items for you? Because now we're doing cliche. When we come back, what bucket list does Charlie have for sports? That's next.
Well, Wimbledon, I guess that'd be cool. The Masters is definitely up there, even though I'm not a big golf guy, but that's such a cool event. And you almost feel like you know the course just because you see all the different holes every year and, Rays Creek and all the bridges are named. You almost feel like you kind of know that course a little bit. So that would be cool. I've never been to a Super Bowl. And I will say I've got to cover a lot of cool things. I've never even covered an NFL playoff game because living in Michigan, covering the Lions for a couple of years when they were terrible, although there was one decent year with John Kitna and your guy Mike March where they were okay. I think they even started maybe 5-2 or 6-2 and didn't make the playoffs. But then coming here and covering the Rams, I've covered so many bad NFL teams that I've never actually gotten to go to an NFL playoff game. So even going to an NFL, any type of postseason game, I think would be fun. I don't know, the Olympics. I think the Olympics would be cool.
The fountains and flags outside invite you in. Once inside, it's obvious what makes Marie de Villa so special. It's the people that live there and the people that work there. I know for a fact it's a fun place to visit, been there many times over the years for special events, and you can tell the residents love it as well. Welcoming atmosphere, providing all types of senior living, independent living, skilled nursing, memory care. Marie de Villa Senior Living, that's what we're talking about. A single location. That means ownership is hands-on. The residents here are considered guests, and trust me, they feel that way. The beautiful grounds make it more of a campus-type atmosphere. I love calling it the Marie de Villa campus, located at the corner of Clayton and Weidman Road. I guarantee you've driven by there, probably seen the fountains going. Red for October baseball, blue when the Blues are deep into a playoff run. It's a family-owned facility. It's been in business since 1960, and for so many years, it was home to the Cardinals legend, Red Shamings. I encourage you to take a virtual tour or simply to read more about this special place. Go to mariedevilla.com.
And the Marlow Moments brought to us by, who are some of the great sponsors, Charles?
Well, besides St. Louis Lawn Care, who I already mentioned, and so Tim Jangerson, St. Louis Lawn Care, St. Louis Equipment. I'm going to email him actually because everything gets back to raking leaves. I want to get one of these industrial leaf blowers. I have one of these leaf blowers I just bought from like a Lowe's or a Home Depot. It's not as powerful as I would like, and the battery goes out after about 20 minutes. So I want to get one of those backpack ones because I actually think it'd be fun to just go out there and in like 20, 30 minutes, just knock all your leaves out, and you'd feel like the Terminator, just with one of those big time heavy duty leaf blower. So I'm going to hit up my guy, Tim Jangerson from St. Louis Lawn Care and St. Louis Equipment for that. I'm also going to go to Corner Butcher in Fenton. I usually stop by there once every week or so. You got to load up on all the different meats they have. They have everything there. I also like their pork steak burgers that are pre-made. They're mixing burgers that have cheese in them that are pre-made. And it's pretty nice out here, Martin, in the fall here. I mean, it was even pretty dang warm just a couple of days ago. So it's still prime grilling season. So head on down to the Corner Butcher in Fenton. And then, of course, I'm also looking at Otis, who is laying here half sleeping. Everything we do for Otis, we go to Kennelwood Pet Resorts, boarding, grooming, day camp, training, Kennelwood Pet Resorts. That's our spot for the last 6 years for Otis.
And we're going to get some baseball thoughts here. Martin and Marlow, episode 23. Make sure you subscribe. It is on iTunes. It's on Spotify. So whether it's Bridget Ann Marlow or your aunt and uncle in Hawaii, Alaska, they can listen every week. Get subscribed. That way it's delivered directly to you. But iTunes, Google, it's Spotify, YouTube. It's easy to find. Still on Anchor, which is where we started out. All of these different platforms. You can get this award-winning content. I'm sure we won an award somewhere. Award-winning content each and every week. Presented by Triad Bank on the web at triadbanking.com. Also, appliance discounters, 4 area locations throughout St. Louis. B&G Tuck Pointing, take the bricks and make them new again. That's what B&G is all about. BGTuckpointing.com. Also, Marie de Villa Senior Living, right there at the corner of Clayton and Weidman Road. Senior Living since 1960. the awards week rolls on for baseball. And I thought when Trevor Bauer won for the Reds, nobody was surprised. Does it surprise you that the Reds had never had a Cy Young winner? I guess I assumed that Tom Seaver, who won 3 of them, had won one with the Reds, but all of his were with the Mets. It's a stat that's true, but to me, when it came out, I thought that had to be wrong.
That's really surprising. I didn't know that. I was thinking Jose Rijo too. I know he was really good in the postseason. Was that 1990? But the fact that I got to go to the All-Star game, 5-6 years ago when it was in Cincinnati, and the whole theme of that All-Star game was the fact that the Cincinnati Redlegs back in the day was the first professional baseball franchise. I think it was 1869, if I'm not wrong, but whatever year it was a long time ago. So if they've been playing baseball for 150-ish years and never won a Cy Young award, that's very, very surprising.
I think Cy Young came along late 50s, so we're still talking about a long window here. Also, Devin Williams, local guy, gets Rookie of the Year in the National League and went to CBC for a little bit, then graduated Hazelwood West. And you went to the E3 gym. Was he one of the guys? This is years ago. My guy Brett Henderson is training some high school kids that are going to be baseball players at the next level. Was Devin part of the Fox 2 interview back then?
He was. I believe we need to check on this. I think it was 2013. It was he and Jake Brentz, and Brentz is a lefty who throws about 100, and he's on his way to the majors as well. I think Blue Jays, correct me if I'm wrong, we can look this up and Straubinger will tell us if we're right or wrong, but Devin Williams had just an unbelievable season this year. And I have to also say he helped me win a fantasy league because he was just ridiculous. I mean, I think he gave up 1 earned run the entire season, struck out something like 2 batters per inning. I mean, was literally unhittable with this changeup that defies gravity. And, Pitching Ninja loves him. It's probably the best single pitch in all of baseball, Devin Williams' changeup.
And it continues this trend. We do have a lot of St. Louis kids that were prep stars here that are doing big things at the next level. I mean, Kyron Williams, it's Notre Dame, it's not professional, but was the biggest star in what was the best college football game of the year to date. Notre Dame beating Clemson in double overtime. Kyron Williams scored early, long touchdown run, and then he scored in overtime and in double overtime. He's having a huge year. He's just a sophomore out of Vianney. He's in all the highlights. Jason Tatum is an emerging superstar at the NBA level. Brad Beal is still a year in, year out, should be an all-star, got screwed last year. But on the hockey level, we got Pat Maroon, local guy, winning back-to-back cups, and there's Ezekiel Elliott, Cowboys running back making $15 million. Max Scherzer just won a World Series. There's probably a better high school historian out there. We should get Earl on and ask, but it has to be sort of the glory days for St. Louis high school kids that are now competing at the next level. It's pretty cool. It's also giving us more to talk about on the local TV side, but I feel like everywhere we look that Pete Fairbanks was pitching for the Rays in the World Series. He's from Webster High School. I mean, maybe there was a period like this before, but I don't recall it in all the years I've been back in town.
Yeah, I've been here, 12, 13 years, and I can't remember a time where there were so many in so many different sports. And probably the game changer there is hockey, because for a while you had Cam Jansen and you had Pat Maroon, and both those guys had been in the league or had played for about 10 years or so. But I just think the infusion of young hockey players going back to that draft when St. Louis had the 5 first-round picks, which is just freaking amazing when you think the St. Louis area is having more first-round draft picks than like the entire country of Sweden, which loves hockey. But yeah, as you start to rattle off names, I don't think it should be super surprising because St. Louis is a pretty dang big, at least media market. I mean, you got 3 million people in the metropolitan area. We count all our guys on the Illinois side. There's a lot of great athletes over there. AJ Epinesa from Edwardsville. And you got a bunch of, great athletes from East St. Louis and Belleville year in and year out. But yeah, there are a lot of St. Louis guys that are always shining on the brightest stages. And you mentioned Kyron Williams in college football last week. Ronnie Perkins from Oklahoma, he had 1.5 sacks in his game. You have Jamison Williams from Ohio State. He had a 38-yard touchdown catch. It seems like every game you're watching, these big time programs, there's a St. Louis kid. Look at last night. I don't know when this podcast will drop, but Caleb Ellaby.
You love sports? Sure. But what you really love is a winning team and a great story. That's exactly what you get with Appliance Discounters. It started with just 3 employees. 1 location, 3 employees. Denise Bradley, her husband John, her brother Tony. That's it. More than a decade ago. And for years, you've heard me talking about them. Here's why. My dishwasher, it's a Bosch, the quietest dishwasher on the market. Remember Grandma's dishwasher always, That's not what's going on with us. We got it at Appliance Discounters. Our washer, our dryer, our stove, and our refrigerator, and Electrolux. Yes, the Kilcoins put these babies to the test. During the quarantine, the MVP at our house, the dishwasher, it got a workout. We've got big name brands we're talking about at a great price. St. Charles, Baldwin, Maplewood, South County, and in the city. The best bet, just get online. TheApplianceDiscounters.com. Our savings are your savings.
The best in the bricks. It's more than just a slogan. Why not make your home or garage or chimney look its best by fixing the bricks? That's what B&G Tuck Pointing can do for you. Bricks look their best with proper tuck pointing. Call Rich Galati and his team at 314-363-0525. And by team, of course, we include his daughters, Bella and Gabrielle. Or go online, bgtuckpointing.com, a proud St. Louis-based company that supports the hometown St. Louis Blues. Yes, they love their hockey. Chimney repair, foundation repair, caulking, waterproofing, they do it all. Have you driven around St. Louis? We have a lot of brick buildings, and if they need repair, you know who to call. Consider me among the many satisfied customers. Call 363-0525, 363-0525, or go online, bgtuckpointing.com, and find out what it means to be the best in the bricks.
The quarterback from Pattonville, Western Michigan, this kid's putting up huge numbers, and he had the fake spike touchdown pass to beat the Toledo Rockets last night for some action. That got a lot of play because on these nights where the MAC is the only game going, a lot of people are gambling, and it's getting a lot of people to watch guys like Caleb Ellaby.
As we tape, Tony La Russa is still the White Sox manager. And boy, the news comes out, the DUI, second one for him. And people were, whether it was professionally asking me or just friends asking me, reaction, oh my God, you hear about that? And my first thought was, for me, disappointing because I like Tony a lot. I think I know him really well, and it's disappointing. And you could be friends with somebody or work with somebody, and if something they do is a mistake or stupid, whatever, I think it's fair to say, you're disappointed in that person. I think for him, it's embarrassing, but the timing couldn't be worse. I mean, just as you're kind of weathering the storm in Chicago, that they're all pissed locally, media-wise, almost universally, hate the hire, bad idea, he doesn't belong here kind of thing. And just when that sort of dies down, and I thought, you know what, he's got a chance to prove them all wrong and have a great season. Team's good. Maybe they go in the playoffs and have a little bit of a run. And, he's got a chance to rewrite his own resume, which is already filled with all kinds of baseball history. And then this thing comes out, and it's just so disappointing. And then the police report, it has the tone of, don't you know who I am? Sure, there's things he said in there that kind of make us laugh because he called them the California Angels, which is such an old school reference. But the greater point is it's just so embarrassing. And I think he's just made it way harder for him to kind of pull this off without a lot of extra BS, which I know he hates is the extra BS. But I think because it's Jerry Reinsdorf, who really doesn't answer to anybody. He's not a newer owner in the league. He's not going to have a commissioner tell him what to do. I think they're going to survive this, take the news cycle, take the hit. Maybe it's February and Tony's in spring training and having to do a mea culpa and owning it a little bit. Where do you think this heads?
Yeah, I don't think Tony La Russa gets fired because, as you said, Jerry Reinsdorf answers to nobody, and this was a Jerry Reinsdorf hire. I'm sure Rick Hahn didn't want a big-time Hall of Fame manager to come in there and usurp some of his power. And the fact that Reinsdorf said they knew about this, if that's true, which I believe, then I don't think this coming out is going to cause him to to change his mind. Especially there was already a lot of blowback, as you said, the Chicago media and people were bringing up his age and could he work with this young core of players? Everybody's even talking about his Colin Kaepernick comments. And with Tony had been through this before. You can't take a chance. I will say when I'm reading all the reports and Tony, you just need to get a driver. He needs to get a driver. He can't chance it when he already had one back in 2003 or 2007. And also it's not pass fail in terms of, okay, you get a DWI, but nobody got hurt because somebody could have been hurt. You could have gotten in an accident. I've always said this about DUIs though, just in general. If you get pulled over and you blow a 0.15, a 0.18, whatever it is, if you're hammered, I don't feel sorry for you one bit. You messed up. It's your problem. You need to be accountable. You need to be held responsible. When I read about Tony, the one thing I will say though, is I read he blew a 0.09, 0.095, and that's obviously darn close to 0.08. I mean, when I was growing up, and I believe in Ohio, it was 0.1 even when I went to college and I moved to Illinois and it was 0.08. And I'm not trying to pass the buck in any way, but I will say that, if you go out to a restaurant and you watch a game or you're there for 2-3 hours and you have 2 or 3 beers, everybody knows when you're hammered, you can't drive. And when you're fine, when you have 1 beer and you're good. But honestly, if Tony blew a 0.09, and I'm not trying to say anything to kind of, get him off the hook though. I just wondered, did he really know? Did he think he was inebriate? Did he think he was impaired? Because 0.09, you're right there on the edge. And as somebody, I like to drink alcohol. I don't really know what 0.08 is. Honest to God, like if I go watch a game for 3 hours and I have 3 or 4 beers, am I over the limit? I don't know the answer to that.
I think, at that point though, because it's happened before, you just got to be overly paranoid, right, overly concerned, and just do the right thing. Call the Uber, the driver, whatever. Just if for no other reason, you want to protect other people. That's the number one thing about when we talk about drunk driving. But protect your own legacy, your own image. At that point, it's worth whatever that money that would be spent on it. Hey, final baseball thoughts, also managerial. Kevin Cash of the Tampa Bay Rays wins the Manager of the Year, American League. And a great team. They've done a ton of great things in Tampa. But it's funny how much of the video that was used, I saw this. Hey, and your winner is Kevin Cash. And a lot of the video is him walking to the mound to take out Blake Snell. Like, he can't avoid it. Like, even as he's winning the award, which, by the way, I had a tweet that I think was very underrated, Chuck, and I'm disappointed, was proud of that tweet. When they announced the finalists, I said Kevin Cash is presumed to be the winner, and now I'm forgetting how I phrased it, but they said, as he's about to win the award, he's taking himself out of consideration.
I like it.
Maybe it's too cheap.
Well,
but anyway, the poor guy, he can't avoid the Blake Snell video.
Right. And that's the old thing about these awards where we all know they're for the regular season, but they don't announce them until after the playoffs are over. And then you have these ridiculous playoff moments that you can't get out of your memory, like Kevin Cash. It's just funny because I would say most people think he made a terrible decision. And here's a guy who's winning Manager of the Year for his decision-making. And he made one of the worst decisions, most would agree, in recent baseball memory in terms of pulling Blake Snell. And it's the same with, look at Shane Bieber. Shane Bieber unanimously wins the American League Cy Young Award. What do you remember from Shane Bieber this year? I mean, he was unbelievable in the regular season. He got absolutely shelled in the playoffs. So it's just kind of goes to show you this is a regular season award, and one bad outing for Shane Bieber obviously doesn't take away the great things he did this regular season. But with Kevin Cash, I mean, this guy, he probably made 99% of the correct decisions all year long, went along with the Rays' organizational philosophy. But then when he just kind of kept with that line of thinking, it really bit him in the ass, and it was on the biggest stage in the World Series, and everybody's ripping on him.
You know what this was? An episode where we had a lot to get to. It wasn't a big lie, probably a little more than 20 minutes. Hopefully people's commute was a little longer than 20 minutes. Martin and Marlow, episode 23 in the books, Chuck. Go rake those leaves. Do your Sisyphean task. Sisyphus. Yeah, but if you had to say as an adjective, would it be Sisyphean?
I said Sisyphean, which might be wrong, but it sounded okay to me.
All right, I'm going to go email and text Chris Berman. We'll get him on the show. All right, buddy. See you.